What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt Taville with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Carl, the Cobra, Froch. Get this. Carl Froch opens up on who would hammer him had he fought him. And he names that one fighter that would have absolutely hammered him. And he says, admitted there is one fighter that who would do that to him. And he said that the Cobra conceded that a prime version of a four-weight world champion, Roy Jones Jr., would have been a bridge too far. He said, I would have got absolutely hammered. I'd have got whooped. I've got to be honest. If I had managed to go 12 rounds with Roy Jones Jr., can you imagine the state of my face? I can't say that we wouldn't have I can't say that we wouldn't have hit me, but I got hit with shots. I'd have to say I'd have been too quick with that jab, and he'd have outworked me. He'd have hammered me. He'd have beaten me up. Those are the words of Carl the Cobra Froch, and let me counterpunch. Well, Carl Froch, either at 160 or 168, that version of Roy Jones Jr. would have done exactly what he said. And, I appreciate Carl Froch for being honest, because a lot of fighters wouldn't, especially when it's past the time and the statute of limitations. In other words, you'll never be able to know what would have happened back then. So it's easy for someone with a big ego to say, nah, I would have held my own, man. I think I would have got him with my style. You just have to pressure Roy. And I think, it would have knocked all that flashy stuff out. That would be something that somebody could say. But I respect Carl for what he did say, okay? And Roy was one of those fighters that he was so gifted, like, athletically, timing, speed, power. No. Carl Froch would have I would like to seen Carl Froch fight someone like Felix Trinidad because of the styles. Because Carl likes to mix it up. He's a scrapper, and that's why his style was so appeasing, because he was a guy that likes to throw those bows, okay? And since he likes to do that, someone like Roy would have countered him all night. Roy would have hit him with shots. And they would have been shots hit flush simply because Carl would be too eager trying to inflict his own punching power. And the way Carl does it, he does it with combinations. He's just not going to hit you with one or two. He wants to hit you with 4 or 5 because he wants to inflict the damage on you. He's somewhat of a high-speed hybrid version of Adam Kalnacki. If you guys can remember Kalnacki, even though his defense was way off and flaky and wide open or non-existent, he was still one of those guys that beat you up by accumulation, okay? He beat you up by accumulation. And Carl Froch had that same type of style. That's why someone that's really athletic like Andre Ward, which Andre Ward is like, to me, like a watered down version of Roy Jones, how Roy used to be. You know what I mean? That's how good Roy was, because Andre Ward was very good. You know what I'm saying? Pound for pound in the day when he was fighting. But he was nothing to Roy Jones in his prime. No. He would have gave Roy a fight as long as it lasted, but he wouldn't have beat Roy Jones either. And Andre Ward beat him simply by having an athletic style, and that style of his reflexes were able to time Carl Froch, because Carl Froch has a habit of coming in similar to like Amir Khan, a better version, because Amir Khan likes to get in there and open up on shots, with flurries, okay? Those flurry shots are good only if you can not get hit or not get timed, okay? And Jermaine Franklin was doing a pretty good job with that. I cringe when I watch that fight simply because Jermaine Franklin would have beat Carl Froch. His ass just ran out of gas. Since he did gas out, Froch was more conditioned. Froch was more determined. Froch knew he had to make an impact, and he stopped Jermaine Franklin. And I hated that fight. I admit it. I hated that fight because I was a friend. I was a fan of Jermaine Franklin. So, did I say Jermaine Franklin? I'm sorry. Guys, Jermaine Taylor, for Christ's sake. Where I'm at, 507. Okay, Jermaine Taylor. Sorry. But anyway, I do appreciate Carl Froch's honesty because Roy Jones would have mauled him. Because what Roy would have done, it wouldn't have been a type of fight that would have been competitive. It would have been similar to how Roy and Vinny Pazienza got it on, if you guys can remember. That was absolutely embarrassing. But it just shows you that real recognizes real. Froch knew, and he remembers. That's an important word. Remember. He remembers how good Roy Jones Jr. was. Roy Jones, dude. I had a friend, shout out to Shelby Bowden, right? We used to watch fights together down in my dad's house in the den, okay? And the crazy thing about it was we used to watch those Roy Jones Jr. fights. Roy Jones Jr. he didn't even shave. And Shelby's like, man, he don't even shave no more. He just come out there and bit, you know, and it was just funny. He doesn't, he just rolls out of bed to come kick some ass and get a check and then go home. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Carl the Cobra Froch stating that he would absolutely get hammered and murdered by Roy Jones Jr. in his prime. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!